Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chelsea, and I'm a member of the Fold planning team. I'm very excited to be your host for today. This session is called Translation Duel de Traduction, and it'll run until 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are pleased to offer closed caption technology for today's session and for all our sessions this weekend. We want to thank the Governor General's Award for sponsoring this event. So this virtual space is meant to be a safe space for all guests and panelists. We have closed the chat function to avoid disruption, but feel free to use the Q&A box, which you'll see at the top or bottom of your screen, to ask questions of panelists. If you're joining by phone, you can also use, we are also checking Twitter throughout the event for questions from the audience using the hashtag #Fold2020. So this session is called Translation Duel de Traduction, and it's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Karen Richardson. Karen is a poet and member of both the Fold planning team and board. She will appear on your screen with our panelists in just a moment. We're going to have each author read a short excerpt. There's also a short story with accompanying translations, which you can find at thefoldcanada.org/translation. It has also been emailed to all registrants, and the link is in the Q&A box as well. If there are any glitches during the readings or at any point during the event, hold tight or log back in, and we'll post updates on our Twitter page as well. Once the session is over, I'll come back with a few final housekeeping items. For now, please enjoy readings by Wayne Grady, Edem Awume, and Rhonda Mullins. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Leduc. I'm the Communications and Development Coordinator for the Fold, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update for this panel. Unfortunately, Rhonda Mullins is unwell. She took a turn for the worse last night, and we found out from her publicist this morning, so unfortunately she won't be able to join us for the panel today, but we are sending prayers and well wishes for a speedy and safe recovery. I will be reading an excerpt from Rhonda's translation later during the panel, but now it is my pleasure to introduce Edem Awume, who will be reading his story that we'll be looking at the translation of later in this panel.
Deux, trois. Un soir au petit Chicago. Au cœur de l'automne, notre petite cité de Hall, surnommée Petit Chicago, reste fiévreuse, palpitante. L'année 1941 s'écoule lentement. De l'autre côté de la rivière des Outaouais qui borde notre fameux bourg, la rivière d'Ottawa paraît bien grise et triste, au contraire du Petit Chicago où ne sévit nulle prohibition. Ville brûlante où règne le sexe, l'alcool, le meurtre et la musique. Surtout la musique, entre la fête et le drame, comme cette scène à laquelle j'ai assisté, malgré moi, en m'en allant écouter l'incomparable Ella Fitzgerald, qui, ce soir, chante au Standish Hall. À 2 rues de cette bâtisse, à l'ombre d'un frêne, j'ai vu 2 types empoignardés en 3e. Devant mes yeux, le reflet des réverbères sur la lame de leur couteau, et le malheureux qui chute au pied de l'arbre, et les 2 assassins qui s'en vont glorieux. Je suis figé dans mon angle de mur, au coin de la rue, caché derrière une benne dégoulinante d'ordures, honteux. Car peut-être aurais-je pu intervenir, criant pour ameuter du monde, me faisant fuir les malfrats devant la tragédie annoncée. C'est cela notre petit Chicago, de la violence et du rêve, avec la bénédiction des étoiles. J'ai fini par quitter les lieux, en espérant que la voix d'Ella me fera oublier le drame. Sa voix, celle d'une jeune femme déjà mûre, mais qui a su préserver la fraîcheur du timbre de cette adolescente qui, à 16 ans, portait sublime son chant sur la scène de l'Apollo-Théâtre de Harlem. Elle chanta « If you can't sing it, you'll have to swing it » et d'autres chants magiques. Mais il s'agit aussi d'une voix empreinte de tristesse, peine d'une enfant égarée dans les rues d'une Amérique raciste. Toutefois, bien vite, le chant de la tristesse s'est métamorphosé en celui de la résistance, dans une épiphanie de notes et d'octaves sublimes entre le swing et le bebop. Il y a eu aussi des improvisations, ces scattes touchantes, impressionnantes.
A Night in Little Chicago. It's mid-autumn. Our little city of Hull, also known as Little Chicago, is burning, throbbing with life. The year 1941 rolls by slowly across the Ottawa River, which flows past our famous town, where the city of Ottawa appears totally gray and sad compared to us. Little Chicago, where there's no prohibition, is a vibrant city governed by sex, alcohol, murder, and music, especially music, which is always somewhere between a party and a spectacle. Like this scene I witnessed accidentally on my way to hear the incomparable Ella Fitzgerald sing at Standish Hall. 2 blocks from the Standish, I saw 2 guys stab another man right before my eyes. They were in the shadow of an oak tree, but light from a street lamp flashed off their knife blades and caught the poor guy as he slid to the base of the tree. And the 2 assassins who ran off laughing. I froze in my shadowy nook at the corner, hidden behind a trash can dripping with garbage, ashamed. Could I have stopped them? Shouted to draw a crowd and caused the killers to flee before the coming tragedy? Well, that's Little Chicago in a nutshell. Violence and reverie and the blessing of the stars. In the end, I just left, hoping Ella's voice would clear my mind of the drama I'd just witnessed. Ella had the voice of a child woman, prematurely old, but retaining the fresh timbre of adolescence, of a child who at 16 strutted so sublimely onto the stage of the Apollo Theater in Harlem. For us, she sang, "If you can't sing it, you'll have to swing it," and other magical songs, but her voice was also seeped in sadness, with the pain of a child who wandered the streets of racist America. But then her singing quickly morphed from sadness to resistance in an epiphany of sublime notes and octaves between swing and bebop, and then there were her improvisations and her moving, impressive scats.
One Night in Little Chicago by Ada Mwami, translated by Rhonda Mullins. In mid-fall, our little city of Hull, nicknamed Le Petit Chicago, or Little Chicago, is still fevered, pulsating. The year 1941 is slowly ticking by, and on the other side of the Ottawa River that runs alongside our infamous town, the city of Ottawa looks gloomy and gray, unlike Little Chicago, where there is no prohibition, a white-hot city where sex, booze, murder, and music reign, particularly music between revelry and tragedy, like a scene I stumbled onto as I was going to see the inimitable Ella Fitzgerald, who was appearing tonight at Standish Hall. 2 streets away from the venue, in the shadow of an ash tree, I saw 2 men stab a third. My eyes caught the flash of the street lights on the blades of their knives, and the poor guy collapsing at the base of the tree, and the 2 murderers taking off in all their glory. I was frozen in my corner where 2 walls meet, on the corner of the street, hiding behind a bin dripping with filth, ashamed, because maybe I could have done something, shouted to alert anyone within earshot and to scare off the culprits before the tragedy occurred. That's what Little Chicago is like. Violence and trance under the blessing of the stars. I ended up leaving the scene, hoping that Ella's voice would help me forget the tragedy. Her voice, young woman's voice that was already mature but still had the sweet timbre of a 16-year-old, a sublime portrait, her singing on the stage of the Harlem's Apollo Theater. She sang, "If you can't sing it, you'll have to swing it," and other enchanting songs. But her voice was laced with sadness, the sorrow of a child wandering the streets of America with all its racism. And then the song of sadness morphed into a song of the resistance, in an epiphany of sublime notes and octaves between swing and bebop, and the way she improvised, her stirring, awe-inspiring scats.
Well, there you have it, everyone. You have heard one story, 3 ways, both in the original French and translated in 2 different versions in English. My name is Karen Richardson, and I'm your moderator for this session. I'm so happy to have you all here. I know that some of you are cheating on work and you are joining us for the fold, even though it's still in the middle of your day. Right now, our latest count, we've got 139 participants online, which is super exciting for our first ever e-version of the fold. So pat on the back for all of you for being here and supporting literature in Canada and supporting the fold on its 5th anniversary. So before we dive into this text and learn a little bit more about translation and how we got to this today, I want to ask you a question. So our fearless artistic director, JL, is going to put a poll question up for us to see. It is regarding the language abilities of everyone who is participating today. How would you describe your language skills? English only, English with a little bit of French, French only, French with a little bit of English. And there might be some of you that are totally proficient in both, and maybe we can raise hands and get comment from those who would describe themselves that way later. So just take a moment and you can click right on your screen to give your answer, and then we will see how that all works. All right, has everyone had a chance to click on their answer? I think so. And okay, we are getting some comments coming in, which is wonderful too. There are a few people that are fully bilingual, so you'll notice that I am not fully bilingual when I start. And there are some translators here. I would imagine there are some, so that's fantastic as well. And let's see, I am not on my screen able to see the official poll results. So perhaps I can have, oh, there we go. They popped up like magic. Gotta love technology. All right, so the majority of us, the vast majority, 70% in fact, speak English with some French, maybe like grade 4 to grade 9, you know, what we gotta learn around here. And then next up, we have French with some English, that's 19%, and English only, 11%. Nonetheless, welcome to everyone. We are really excited to have you here and that you've taken an interest in this session. JL attended the Edinburgh Writers' Festival, the most recent one, and she saw something like this take place at their festival, and she was like dumbfounded, like, we have to try this because it's so relevant to us living in Canada, a bilingual nation where there isn't always a lot of true interaction between the 2 languages and cultures. But we do have fabulous texts like Edem's Explication de la Nuit that get translated and win awards for their translation. But often the reading public is unaware of what goes into that or doesn't necessarily get a chance to interact with the original text. So that's what we're going to probe a little further on today. But before we do, I would like to get a show of hands. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see you have the option to raise your hand. And if you could just raise your hand if you are fully bilingual. We would like to know who describes themselves that way. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna see, we've got lots of comments coming in, which I love. You can continue to comment that way. That there are quite a few people that are saying that they are fully bilingual, and there's someone here, Lisa Noble, who says she's in a translation grad group. So there might be some other people from that group that are here. Thank you for coming. And let's see, raised hands. How do I figure out how many hands were raised? I'm expecting the Zoom fairies to put the information up. Okay, so we have 57 people who are fully bilingual. If I had a hat, I would take it off. I have been trying for about 30 years, and I wouldn't describe myself as fully bilingual as yet. Nonetheless, enough about me. Let's get going. Let's get going. So first, I actually would like to start with Wayne. Wayne is a translator, as you know, and he has worked on all sorts of projects. I have one of the books that he, like, look how thick this is. Do you know how long it would take to translate? The Accidental Education of Jerome Lupien by Yves Beauchemin, and this was translated by Wayne. I would love you, Wayne, to just break us in. How does it all work? Can you walk us through the process of translating a novel?
Yeah, I think there are several ways that different people, different translators approach a task like that. For me, in some cases, I just read the book. Obviously, I mean, read the book in French, just to let myself familiarize myself with the voice of the original writer. So I need to be able to hear that voice in order to translate it. But once I get that voice in my head, I know I can translate it, because the rest is basically, dictionary work. you need to, you were saying that your French is not perfect. I would say the same thing about my own French. I speak it well enough, I guess, but I read it quite well. And that's because I just use a lot of dictionaries. When I'm translating any piece, I look up just about every second or third word, even if I think I know what that word, how to translate that word. I have to make sure, because, well, first of all, I've made mistakes. And second of all, sometimes seeing an alternate translation of a word gives you a better idea of what the original writer was trying to get across. So I read the piece, I read the book thoroughly, so I know where it's going. I know how I will catch references early in the text to things that happen later in the text that I might otherwise not realize their importance. And then I just basically sit down and start writing. I mean, I call it writing. It is writing, because I do believe that a translator is writing, is almost rewriting the original text in English, in the target language. It's not an automatic, computers can't do it. Machines can't do it. It's not an automatic, transliteration from one language into another. It's actually an act of creation, recreation, possibly. So then I go through it. I go through it till I get to the end, and then I go through it again and double check my translations. Listen for that voice, make sure I've heard that voice in every case. Someone once described translation as an exercise in close reading. And that really resonates with me, because when you're translating something, you are reading that text more closely than you would any other text that I can think of. You're actually entering that text and becoming that writer, and expressing that writer in a different language. But it is an act of becoming as much, and creating as much as it is of translating. And then, so that's basically how the translation works. Then, of course, there's the back and forth with the original writer, who, if the original writer speaks English, then he or she will have comments to make about things that I said, I wrote. There's an editor at the publishing house who usually has enough French to be able to comment on things and edit the text, and then eventually it gets published, and that's pretty much the process.
Wow. It sounds like quite a lengthy process with all of those various parties involved.
It's hard to hurry it. The times that I have had second thoughts about a translation or wish I had written something a little differently have been times when I haven't been given enough time to do the translation properly. Sometimes I usually ask for a year to translate a novel, and even at that, sometimes it feels rushed. So yeah, it is a long process. It's almost, it is like writing. I mean, I take maybe 2 or 3 years to write a book, and I could probably translate a book in a year. But it's like anything else. The longer you take to do it, the better it is.
You mentioned that it's an act of both creation and sort of embodying the writer and allowing that person's words to sort of flow through you. I'm totally paraphrasing, but that's sort of how I got
that's
from
right.
what you shared. That's a tricky balance for sure, to put a little bit of your own stamp on it, but to maintain the true vein of the work for the original author. So my next question is for Edem, and it has to do with just the comfort level of passing your work along to someone else. So Edem, à votre part, après avoir fini écrire un roman, comment vous sentez-vous de laisser votre précieux travail entre les mains d'un étranger, quelquefois?
Okay. Oh, it's a good question. C'est une question, c'est une grande question. Je pense que okay, let me start first a little bit in English and before moving to French, because we'll need your comprehension, because my English is still weak. So, but I'm working on it. And yeah, alors c'est très intéressant. C'est vrai qu'un texte, c'est un peu comme un bébé quand on le termine. C'est déjà quand on écrit dans une seule langue. En français, c'est pas évident. On revient, on réécrit, et c'est pas facile de laisser partir un texte. D'abord vers son éditeur. Et donc ça, c'est le premier voyage, en fait. Donc, de l'auteur à l'éditeur. It's the first trip from the author to the publisher. And then there is like a second trip from the original publisher to the translator. Donc, pour nous, c'est une expérience au départ assez effrayante, parce que c'est fini, on n'est plus maître de son texte. Mais après, on est un peu confiant parce qu'on se dit que le texte va avoir plus de visibilité. So yeah, for sure, a bit scary, a little stressed at the beginning, but and I also know that this is like a second chance for my work to get another a stronger visibility.
Okay, so if anyone missed some of the French, what Edem mentioned is that initially it can be quite scary. You write your work and you first have to send it on its first trip to the editor. And the editor might change some things that you hold dear and may do some things with your work that you're not sure what's going to happen in that first trip. But after that, it makes a second trip off to the translators, and you can end up with something again quite different. But he says that I feel very like stressed doing this,
Yeah, you're great. That's great.
It's a big responsibility here. I don't want to get you wrong. He says that the bright side, of course, is that you're looking forward to increased visibility for your work. And by translating into English, of course, you have a much larger audience, and that there's a trade-off. While some things may be lost in the translation, it is still essentially your story, and that's sort of the bright side, although it is perhaps a scary process in the middle of it all.
I like what Edem said about writing the novel is like having a baby.
Yes.
That, you have the baby. That's your production, and then I immediately thought that sending it off to the publisher is like taking your child to daycare for the first time. and then when the book goes to a translator, it's like watching your child go to the first day of school, or you have done your job. Everything that you can do has been done with that book, and then it goes off into the bigger world, and you're both proud and as you say, frightened at the same time.
Mm-hmm. There's something I would like to mention. For me, after my book novel is published, for example, it's rare for me to go back in the text and try to read it, because for me it's quite a bit c'est une expérience, it's a tough experience, and when I try to reread my own book, and I'm a bit disappointed. Simply because I could. It was possible to do this better. For example, maybe the description is not very, I think, accurate. I think there's something. Maybe I missed something here. But it's still a great pleasure for me to read my book translated into English or into English, for example, and go to see. It's like to see my original words in in a new de voir mes mots, mais les mots bien qui prennent une nouvelle vie. Et c'est encore un voyage un peu c'est un peu comme finalement la troisième étape du voyage, parce que bien, le français, c'est ma troisième langue. French is my third language, because I speak my father and my mother, African, Togolese mother tongue, and I did start learning French at school when I was 5 years old, and English is just is the fourth one. And so first, maybe some little thing from Eve on Mina to French, and then from French to English. For me, it's something amazing. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Idem, can I ask Idem a question?
Absolutely.
Idem, when you're writing in French, are you conscious that of translating from Togolese into French?
Oh, not really. No, not really. Oh, I often says that I would like to write the full novel in Eve on Emina, like Ngugi wa Thiong'o from Kenya did. For example, he's totally great in Kikuyu or in English, perfect. And I think I'm a child for a colonization. And we lost something. We lost something. So I speak Emina. I speak Ewe, but I cannot, definitely, I cannot write a novel or even a little text in Ewe on Emina. No, it's about some little expressions. A little expression, some specific words, some specific, in French we say anecdote. Yeah, but it's not about thinking the whole story in Ewe before translating. No, I think definitely. I think maybe now. Okay, I left Togo 20 years ago, definitely, and I think maybe 70% of the time I dream in French.
Wow. Oh, really? Yeah.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. And one of the great writer from Algeria who wrote Nejma Kateb Yassine, he used to say that French language for us it's something we got after a war, after a battle. In French, we call this un butin de guerre. So we got this from a battle. It's like an accident, and we try to do something with that. And this reminds me also what Jean-Paul Sartre says. Allow me to do it in French. He say, l'important, ce n'est pas ce qu'on a fait de nous, mais ce que nous avons fait de nous. So the important thing is what, is not what. Maybe the big history did with us. It's about what we did or what we do as author or as artist with this legacy. Yeah. And that's what we try to do as author.
Wow. So one more question in regards to process, Adam. So for Explication de la Nuit, for Descent into Night, you worked with 2 translators. And I know when Jael and I chatted about this earlier, we're like, how does that work? Because after seeing what great differences there were, even for this short text that we've translated for today's session, I can imagine that process would have been, I don't know, I'm imagining it being kind of possibly even combative, right? I don't even know how that would be, how it would go down, but how did you work through that process, having 2 people dissecting your text?
Yeah, so I was also questioning myself at the beginning of this adventure. First of all, it's they did a great job. They are very very talented, very experienced on this field, and both worked together, you know. And during the process of the translation, so I did have some contact with them, just chatting or exchanging about, okay, Adam, for example, okay, what do you want to really express with this sentence, this context, for example? Can you explain a bit more about these, on these? And so they made it very easy, just because at the end, they used to speak as only one person, for example. I think the best thing is, okay, they did really understand at the beginning, they understand deeply the spirit of this story of Explication de la Nuit. Is about what Descent into Night, what night means in this context. And I think they really understand this, and I think they did a great job. So en français, je pense que ils ont pris le temps de bien comprendre l'histoire. C'est-à-dire que c'est un livre assez poétique, et il faut rentrer dans cette poésie-là pour comprendre ce que l'auteur veut dire. Je crois qu'au début, on a eu quelques questions, mais du moment où ils ont compris le sens de l'histoire, du moment où ils ont senti l'odeur, ils ont senti les formes, je crois qu'ils ont réussi à faire un travail formidable. C'est-à-dire que finalement, oui, c'est un langage universel. Literature is definitely an universal language.
Universal language, yeah. I wanted to probe a little deeper. I do see the questions that are coming in, and we're going to get to them later. But we do want to take some time to begin looking at the translation that was completed on Edem's short story, Un soir au petit Chicago. So we don't have Rhonda with us today, and that will change how our conversation goes. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see it right in front of you, how 2 people look at the very same text and come to some different conclusions as they go through. Of course, you can have time to study this on your own and really, really learn from it, especially those of you who might be in the translation program that are tuned in today. But there are some things that we can take away in discussion. So first of all, my first question is for Edem. Comment ont-ils fait? How do you think they did?
Ben, je pense qu'ils ont fait un travail formidable. Je pense que je suis peut-être pas mon anglais étant limité, because I'm not an expert in English language, so for me, it's about feeling, and I can feel that. Yeah, there is a big emotion when you read these experts. For me, it's first of all about getting, experiencing something very big emotion. Yeah. Donc j'étais très émue. Donc I can also see the difference between some little words, which for me it's also the proof, evidence that language it's a big, it's a wonderful republic. We can see, for example, when says or wrote, especially music, and Rwanda, particularly music, for example, and later in the text, for me, it's a friend, and I think Rhonda wrote ash tree and Rain's oak tree. So yeah, this for me reflects the diversity and it reflects what nature, what stories, what our environment could be, can be very rich. Yeah.
One of my favorite differences was when, Wayne, you described Ella's voice as the voice of a child woman, and Rhonda said a young woman. And I love child woman because I have a 5-year-old who we often describe that exact way. she's 5. She looks like a kid, and she got certain things, and she's a kid, but she's got this maturity about her that almost can't be explained. And immediately I felt that word choice.
Yeah, I wanted to get across the notion that she's both a child and an adult, and that's the quality that comes through in her voice. To me, just saying a young woman, it didn't get the dual aspect of her voice in that. And you know, as Adam says, that you could hear in her singing both the young woman who walked out onto the Apollo stage so confidently, but you could also hear the child who roamed around the streets of racist America. So I wanted to get that sense of the two Ella Fitzgeralds coexisting in the same person. But that you're right, that's an interesting difference between the two between the translations. One of the things I noticed right off the bat was in the title that we both gave to the translations, and it raises the kind of things that translators have to think about all the time. Un soir can be either a night or one night, and I think the differences between the two translations is quite significant. I think the overall story is talking about Little Chicago in general, what it was like to be in Little Chicago over a long period of time. So to me, this is a typical night in Little Chicago. It's not just what happened on one night in Little Chicago. So that's why I chose to translate the title as A Night in Little Chicago rather than One Night. So that's the kind of things, you know, right from the bat. I mean, titles are always hard, but that was right from the start, was one of the things I debated.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
that's fascinating.
Fascinating. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I agree with this. Yeah, A Night in Little Chicago. Yeah, Un Soir. And you're right. When this is not only about one night. It's about what you can experience at that time in Little Chicago. Mm-hmm.
I thought that if this was something that just happened one night, then it wouldn't have been called Little Chicago.
Right. So you led right into my next question, Wayne. Upon seeing Rhonda's version of the story, were there any choices that she made that surprised you? I mean, you mentioned one that you felt that there was a difference there, but was there anything that kind of struck you as, okay, I wouldn't have thought that?
Well, I guess the difference between an oak tree and an ash tree is I have to now run and find and look up friend. I just thought oak. That was actually one word that I didn't look up because I thought I knew what it meant. But no, I think in general, in reading Rhonda's, I think we both managed to capture the tone and the voice of Edem's original piece. It's that kind of a reverie that the narrator is having of a time in Hull that no longer exists. And as I know from having lived in Ottawa in the 70s, the Hull that we knew in those days no longer exists. It's gone. And I had this sense in both of our translations that we're talking about a past that is no longer there. And so I think, but again, like Edem mentioned, I used especially the music, and Rhonda used in particular the music, or I forget. Yeah, particularly
music. Yeah.
I mean, those are really small differences. I use alcohol, and she uses booze, and perhaps in retrospect, booze is a more appropriate translation because it's a boozy kind of story, drinking in Standish Hall. But generally, I think we're pretty much in agreement. I mean, there are little sort of tweaks here and there, but I think we both caught that tone. One of the things I wanted to talk about was keeping the original voice or tone rather than trying to impose my own tone. Or I'm always conscious when I'm translating that I am not me. I am the author. I'm the other person, and I want to keep that other person's writing style and voice rather than imposing my own writing style and voice on the piece. And I think Rhonda did that as well.
I think you both did a great job, because I felt that we still arrived at the very same story at the end and left you with the same questions and the same longing for a little bit more. But it was quite clear that there were some style differences, even right down to the punctuation.
Yeah.
The sentence structure kind of gets jostled a little bit. And those can be very personal things based on who's doing the writing. And so that's the place where I could see that as writers, both you and Rhonda had to be comfortable with what you were putting forth, that it felt right and read correctly to you in the English.
Yeah. Yeah, there are stylistic, sort of grammatical, syntactical differences between French and English, and how we both adapt that and still make it sound like it was like the original is peculiar to each translator. In my own writing, I tend to longer sentences, and I think that might have come through with the translation too. I like long sentences. I like to assume that the reader has an attention span greater than 10 words.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I know.
So after looking at Rhonda's piece, Wayne, was there anything that she did that that you may have felt she might have done a little better than you? She might have handled a little better. Just after looking at it, because I mean, that happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I like the way she started, and she left the original, the Petit Chicago in French, and then translated that. I think that in retrospect, I might have wished I had done that too. And because it's a fever, she's stuck more closely to the French when she said it's still fevered, pulsating, and I had burning, throbbing. That fevered to me sounded a little bit maybe a little not healthy, rather than, and I thought burning has more of a sense of really being alive, whereas fever to me sounds being not so alive. But pulsating is an interesting. I mean, in French it's palpitant. Obviously, we don't want to use palpitating, but pulsating has a better sense of life, perhaps, than throbbing, and I think that might have been a better choice than mine. I can only see the first paragraph on my screen right now, so I can't speak too much towards the ending. But you know, there are, we can go through it that way and talk about choices. But you know, I think yeah, I think the differences between the two are kind of line editing rather than major.
For sure.
retranslation.
Yeah, I
think
it's
sorry, just quickly. Maybe there is something Wayne did better than me, for example. If you take the extracts in front of us, surtout la musique entre la fête et le drame, comme cette scène à laquelle j'ai assisté malgré moi en m'en allant écouter l'incomparable Ella Fitzgerald qui, ce soir, chante au Standish Hall. I think it's about the way you breathe too. And I think Rhonda's work is maybe closer. It's plus proche, closer of my brief, the original brief, but I did prefer what you did here by while you cut this sentence in two, for example, especially music. When I'm reading when translation, especially music, which is always somewhere between a party and a spectacle. And then you start with a new sentence. I think these made, I think, the first sentence stronger, as for me. And it's a very interesting experience. Maybe so yeah, definitely here you did better than than the original.
That's a comment on preference,
Wayne.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's subjective.
I split up that sentence into two sentences because I thought the first half of the first part of the sentence, especially music, etc., refers back to the previous sentence, whereas whereas the last part, like the scene I witnessed accidentally on my way to here, sets up the next paragraph. So I thought that those two thoughts probably were a little better in two sentences rather than
one. One thing that I noticed that I felt did give a slightly different, perhaps added some editorial to it. There was a difference between yours and Rhonda's, Wayne, was the translation of the word drame.
Yeah.
Because you translated it, well, not directly translated, but it went into that sentence as spectacle. And then later on, towards the end of the piece, you referred to it simply as drama. And Rhonda stayed very consistent to it meaning tragedy, which tells the reader what to think. And I found that really interesting that you saw it differently in that way.
Yeah, and I, you know, there is a different. I avoided drama here in this first instance because, I mean, a drama can be either comedy or tragedy, and I thought that here so far, before we got into the murder scene, we're still talking about Little Chicago as being a party place, a place of fun, of booze, you know, sex, alcohol, murder, and music. That to me is more like a spectacle, more like a stage presence than drama, which could be either tragedy or comedy. So I stuck with spectacle here rather than identifying which mask we were talking about. And Rhonda went straight to tragedy, which is kind of, you know,
which was maybe a device of foreshadowing, perhaps.
Well,
right?
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think it works. It works also. Slightly.
I think one of the interesting takeaways to my earlier question about having two translators work together, perhaps this makes it easy to see exactly how you could produce a very strong final product from having two independent translators work through the text and then wrestle through how to arrive at the best.
Yeah, there'd be a certain amount of arm wrestling going on, but
absolutely. Absolutely.
But in a case like this, it wouldn't be, you know, I can see that. I can see working with another translator if you both have the same view of translation, the same theory, you're working on the same translation theories. It could be quite difficult if you both have completely different views of the role of the translator.
Yeah, and especially with a longer text, like
Exactly.
that would be quite.
Je pense que j'ai beaucoup aimé aussi cette, oui, dans le texte, cette progression du mot tragédie à celui de drame. So I did really appreciate the evolution, the different occurrences of this word. Parce que pour moi, dans la réalité, c'est une tragédie. Mais dans la littérature, on met en scène la tragédie. First of all, it's a tragedy, but in literature, we try to put the tragedy on stage. And in that way, it becomes a drama, for example. Donc, c'est un peu ça. C'est-à-dire qu'on n'écrit pas la réalité, mais on met en scène peut-être quelque part la réalité. Donc, c'est un peu ça. Donc, la réalité du petit Chicago, mis en scène et mots par l'auteur et deux formidables traducteurs. Ouais.
Wendy, can you flesh that out a little bit for the non-French speaking audience?
I think what he was saying is that the word drama is probably more closely translated as tragedy in this case because of the way that Hull or Little Chicago put everything on stage. It was more tragic than comic. So I think he was opting for Rhonda's translation of that sentence over mine, which is fine. And as we said earlier, the word tragedy does foreshadow what happens in the next paragraph. I was kind of letting the word spectacle reflect back to the Hull, the Hull of the party. You know, it's where Hull. When I lived in Ottawa in the 60s and 70s, Hull is where everybody in Ottawa went to party. Ottawa, as Idem was saying, is gray and quiet and dull and government. But once you cross that E.B. Eddy Bridge into Hull, life just sort of relaxed, and everybody was. It was, and so I had that spectacle aspect in my head when I was translating that particular sentence. But I mean, and there's also the worldview going on, and I was interested in what Idem was saying about life being a tragedy. Life. If you believe that life is a tragedy, that famous expression. I think it was Bulwer Lytton who said that life is a comedy to those who think and a tragedy to those who feel.
Wow.
And for someone who feels things strongly, life is a tragedy. And I don't think I think that Rhonda's translation of drama to tragedy captures that sense better than.
So there's a question here from one of our attendees that kind of flows very naturally from here. He or she says, I like the rhythm that was used by Wayne Grady. What made you choose this rhythm? Was it just by feel? Was it thinking or was it feeling, Wayne?
Well, rhythm is very important to me and to most writers. And so a lot of word choices, I mean, I don't think translators would deny, or writers themselves would deny, that a lot of word choices are made because of how many syllables there are in the word, and how it fits into the rhythm and the flow of the sentence. I think rhythm is extremely important. It's one of the reasons that behind what I often say is that in order to be a really good translator, you need to be a good writer in the target language, and that's sort of getting at what I meant by that. You have to have that sense of rhythm and that feel for the language that you would have if you were writing your own words. It's a poets would obviously agree with that, but I think prose writers have to have just as much of a strong sense of rhythm as poets do.
Mm-hmm. I would have obviously loved to have Rhonda here. So one day, Rhonda, when you watch the video, maybe you can shoot me an email. But It is, yeah. Being a good writer in the target language matters because you have to know what works, right? Because at the end of the day, it is your writing that is going to go forth.
Well, and not only that, but it's probably a person who's an English reader who's reading it. So the work has to work. The book or the translation has to work for the reader as well as for the original writer.
For sure. We have a comment here from someone in the audience that made mention of the very first line and how you both went with mid-autumn or mid-fall as opposed to saying in the heart of autumn or in the heart of fall, which would be the direct kind of translation, but in English is not something that's really said. I mean, you could have, we would have understood, but you both kind of chose to just get right to the heart of it rather than sticking with that translation. Anyhow, I was thinking here about goodness, I just distracted my own self. That's not good. That is not good, Karen. Yes. Okay. So you were talking about being a good writer in the target language, and it had me thinking about not only your familiarity with English being important to this, but your familiarity with the culture, with the place, with the setting. And even in our discussion of this, you've spoken so much about when you lived in Ottawa and when you partied in Hull, perhaps, you know, and just kind of the reputation that Hull had. And so one thing that was translated differently was you referred to Hull as a famous town, and Mullen wrote it as an infamous town, which does kind of evoke a very different feeling in the English. Is it not infamous to you?
Well, you know, infamous has a I guess it in French was it infâme in French? I'm just trying to see.
I don't know.
Fameux, see, our famous bourg, which is kind of outskirts.
Fameux, oui.
To me,
sixième ligne.
Pardon?
Yeah.
The sixième ligne.
Yeah, lane 6. Yeah.
To me, infamous has a negative connotation. Someone who's infamous is famous for the wrong reasons, famous for not great reasons. I have very fond memories of Hull, and so for me, famous is a more positive way of approaching that. But you're right, though, Karen, that when you're translating a text, you're not just translating words; you're translating a culture. You're bringing the reader in the target language into the culture of the original piece, which is why why you would never translate a piece like this and have it set in a suburb of Toronto, for example. I wanted to leave enough hints and enough elements of the Frenchness of the text in the text in order so that people are always conscious that they're reading about another town and another culture. Translating culture is a very important aspect of translating text.
Absolutely. It brings to mind for me, it brings to mind to me sort of that constant struggle between Anglophone Canada and Francophone Canada, particularly the two nations, right? Your Quebec and the rest of Canada. And we often have these ideas about the way that we do business, the way that we live life, and have our own sort of prejudices about what is the correct way, the correct lifestyle. I say that because I lived in Montreal for a few years when I was a student at McGill, and as an Anglo coming from Toronto, I had this idea. You tell people you're going to school in Montreal, oh, party city, party school, that kind of thing. And then after living there, even just a few weeks, I noticed a different side that I hadn't understood. I understood the laid back nature of the lifestyle throughout Quebec, and that people don't rush in the same way, and that people take time and they have a drink after work and they spend more time with the people that they love. And And
Yeah.
I actually found myself very stressed coming out of the metro trying to get to class and wondering why people were not rushing to get to work at 9 a.m. like they're walking so slowly. And so that particular translation of infamous and famous, it could be a perspective of how the rest of Canada might look at the lifestyle of permissiveness, versus someone who is familiar with it, seeing it as, well, I mean, it's to be celebrated.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I lived in Montreal for many years as well, and I got to really appreciate what I think was called the cafe culture of you know, people. It's more Parisian. It's more European. In the sense of, you know, you stop at a cafe on the way home and have a you know, 5 à 7. Yeah, you're right. When I first moved to Toronto, I lived in Montreal until 1976, and then moved to Toronto. And I was after having lived in Ottawa, and I was really quite astounded by the cultural difference between the two cities. And I must say I preferred the Montreal, the Quebecois way of life than to the rest of, to what I learned, what I found then in English Canada, and still do to some extent. It's quite a different approach to life.
Je pense que y a quelque chose d'à la fois ironique et mystérieux dans le terme fameux. There's something ironic and it's also about mystery inside the term famous. Just because Little Chicago was well known for, I think, for the best and for the worst too. Donc c'était connu pour le meilleur et pour le pire aussi. Everything could happen at that time in Hull. And there's also about a city with a deep identity. Ce n'est pas le Québec profond, ce n'est pas non plus, on est évidemment, géographiquement, on est au Québec. So geographically, we are in Quebec, but we are on the border, still now. And even now in Hull, you can see that, I think maybe probably 30 to 40% of people you meet in Hull now speak English, speak both languages. As you know, the Little Chicago has changed since that time. Now, the Standish Hall doesn't exist anymore at the place they built a big hotel, and a big part of this area geographically is now occupied by the federal government's buildings. So yeah, for me, Hull is a little bit now. Maybe it reflects to give us a portrait of maybe a Canadian modernity, for example, in terms of the diversity of people you can meet there, civil servants, people who works at, I don't know, at the bars, for example, immigrants. C'est très intéressant. Aujourd'hui, c'est à la fois très professionnel et aussi très culturel. C'est toujours c'est un peu le vieux Gatineau. It's about very professional and still, there is still a very cultural area, just because, parce que quand même Hull, Gatineau, Petit Chicago, Hull, c'est toujours sur un territoire algonquin non cédé. Je ne sais pas comment dire non cédé en anglais, mais it's still... Sorry?
Unceded territory.
Unceded territory. So, il y a tout ce mélange, il y a toute cette histoire, il y a toute cette géographie très compliquée. Donc oui, c'est définitivement un espace que je trouve... passionnant, même si aujourd'hui, géographiquement, c'est moins intéressant parce qu'aujourd'hui, il y a des immeubles très, très gris, les gouvernements fédéraux qui sont là. Oui.
So Edem was speaking about Hull and how it's changed, how it still continues to have cultural significance, but it's now become more modern and more professional, and kind of gives us an idea of sort of a more modern Canada and a place where the cultures mix, and mentioned that probably 30 to 40% of the people that you encounter in Gatineau will be speaking English or speak both languages quite effortlessly. So what is shown to us here in this story doesn't quite exist in the same way, but yeah, I mean, it was great to have a look back at it, because I'm more familiar with the modern Gatineau, and you know, like taking my kids to the Children's Museum and things like that, and interacting with, you know, police officers that have a perfect Quebecois accent when they're speaking French, but a perfect Ontario accent when they're speaking English, and you know, and it's eye-opening for me to experience that. I want to just quickly touch on some of these fabulous questions rolling in. Thank you for the patience of all of those who have been sending their questions, and just to everyone who's hung out with us for this conversation. It's been fun for me, and I really hope it's been great for you, Wayne and Edem. Awesome. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. But now we need to hear what our audience is thinking. So there's a question here from Alana King. She wants to know if the authors have any choice who is chosen as their translator. Is there a financial component to this? And what other factors go into this decision? So Edem, as you are the author that we're speaking to, avez-vous un choix sur le traducteur?
If I have to choose between Wayne and Rhonda.
Oh
no,
non,
in general.
C'est vraiment
Okay,
pour un roman. Est-ce que vous avez un choix?
No, not really, no, because generally it's a deal between my French publisher, Le Boréal in Montreal, and the potential English publisher. No, so no, not really. No, ça se passera différemment. C'est vraiment ça. Hein, c'est vraiment, ça se passe entre mon éditeur francophone, Le Boréal, et un potentiel éditeur anglais qui achète les droits. So, ce n'est pas la partie la plus intéressante de cette aventure. It's not really the most interesting part of this adventure, but it's just like it's about the publisher who clearly wants to buy the right, to acquire the copyrights and to work on the translation, for example. And so far, I didn't have to choose between two translators, for example. Not really.
So what are the chances, you know, I mean, your dissent tonight that won the Governor General's award for translation, you obviously had a fabulous team that you worked with. What would be the chances of landing the same two translators again? Is that something that your publisher would be, you know, trying to push to make that happen, or?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, does that relationship continue?
Oh yeah, definitely. The relation continues, because we did work on this first novel, and right now the same translators are working. They are translating my last novel, Mina parmi les ombres. Mina parmi les ombres, qui était finaliste pour le prix du gouverneur général en 2018. So they are working on Mina, Mina among the shadows. That will be the title in English. So it's supposed to be published this fall by Mawenzi House in Toronto, but maybe later, due to the coronavirus, the issue with the coronavirus. Right. But yeah, so the same translator are working on Mina among the shadows, and I'm quite sure that that will be great too.
Excellent. So Wayne, you had mentioned in our earlier discussion that you often read a novel through just as a reader for enjoyment before you get into translating to really understand the tone of the writing. Do you feel that discussing the work with the author before starting the process helps? Is that something that you do?
I've never done that. And in some cases, I've translated novels by writers who I've known quite well, Danielle Pauly-Kahn, for example, Anthony Meillet. But I've never checked with the author before starting on the translation. In fact, I very rarely contact the author while I'm working on the translation. I'm very happy to send them the book after I finish translating it to get their feedback on it and comments. But while I'm working on it, I don't want to. I don't consult with the original writer. And just to go back a little bit to the previous question, it usually is the publisher who chooses the translator. It's very rarely the author. The author can veto, I guess, and suggest, but by and large, it's usually the publisher who makes those decisions.
So are you then, and this is just my question, but then Wayne, are you then contracted to a particular publisher that you work with, or are you kind of free to accept projects wherever they may come from?
Publishers have their favorite people they go to from time to over time, but no, it's the translator, the publisher chooses a translator and then makes an application to the Canada Council for a grant to cover the cost of the translation. So there's no stable of translators or sort of full-time translators working for a publisher, at least not in English. I don't know how it works in Quebec, but
right. I'm gonna just one quick question, because I know that we've got some participants that are students in translation, and they really are here because they would like to learn more about how this line of work works. Do you consider literary translation to be a specialized type of translation? And any advice that you might have for anyone who wants to get into that? Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a specialized kind of translation. There are many different there are many translators working in many different fields. There's scientific translation, there's speech writing translation, there's nonfiction translation and fiction translation, literary translation. When I started out, I didn't know of any courses that one could take in those fields, but now, yeah, there are most universities that have creative writing programs or schools of creative writing will have a course in literary translation. In fact, it's getting to the point now where to become a literary translator and be funded by the Canada Council, you almost need to have a degree in translation. I'm really glad that's not that I'm grandfathered into not having to have that, but yeah, it is a recognized separate field from other kinds of translating.
Right. Okay, well, time is winding down, and I just appreciate everyone kind of taking their lunch hour to listen today and to learn and to converse. It's been a good break for me from trying to work a full-time job and homeschool 2 kids. So I appreciate it. But before we go, Edem, if you had any kind of final thoughts or words that you'd like to share with our listening and viewing audience.
Merci, c'est un grand, je viens d'avoir un grand moment. So I'm experiencing a great moment because it's the first time for me to do that kind of discussion. So between between 2 translations, between 2 translators, for example. So c'était quelque chose de très luxueux finalement. C'est la première fois. C'est a very luxurious experience. So to have the opportunity to be translated by 2 translators. Et je pense que c'est une expérience vraiment, oui, formidable. J'ai vraiment apprécié donc les 2 traductions. J'ai apprécié comment très rapidement les 2 traducteurs ont compris donc l'esprit l'esprit de ce petit texte, because it's a little text just in 2-3 pages. The translators were they were able to reflect, I think, the spirit of what was in my mind at the beginning. Donc j'apprécie vraiment. Donc c'est un grand luxe que d'avoir ça. Et puis je pense au public aussi. Donc merci à ce public formidable, un public dont m'a dit 130 personnes. It's a lot for writers. So we're not rock stars. On n'est pas des rock stars. Donc c'est vraiment vraiment plaisir, même en ligne, hein, d'avoir un public aussi énorme. C'est vraiment ça. J'apprécie vraiment. Donc merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, guys. That's the translation Duel. Hopefully another time we'll have an opportunity to get Rhonda looped in for a conversation. And we do have Wayne, and we thank you for being here. Wayne, have you got some final thoughts before we turn it back over to the fold?
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and to Adem for providing this great story for us to work on. It's the first time I've actually sat down and discussed translation issues with the actual author, you know, in the middle of the process. So it's been an interesting process for me too, and a really interesting section. I'm glad to have been part of it.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
So I just want to echo that and say thank you both for being here. Thank you to Karen, and thank you to everyone who came and watched this translation Duel de Traduction. So we're going to transition into our closing remarks. So even though the authors are leaving, we encourage you to stay, unless you'd like to maybe go on social media and talk about how much you enjoyed this panel. So yeah. So thank you to our sponsors who graciously continue to support us as we transition model. Sorry, I think I just got unmuted for a second. So thank you to our sponsors who graciously supported us as we transitioned into an online model. So copies of authors' books are available through Another Story Bookshop at anotherstorybookshop.ca. I believe we have translations as well. We also have content from our Fold Challenge and previous festivals at audible.ca/fold. So if you enjoyed yourself today, please consider ways you might continue to support us. You can follow us online and share the word about this event and other events coming up. So while everything is free, you can donate to the Fold at the Fold. You can donate to the Fold Foundation at Canada Helps. Be well and be kind to yourself and to others. Have a great day.